Yo, what's going on, y'all? What's going on? Welcome back to another Hashi Flashy episode of the Audible podcast. I'm your host, D Man. Let's get straight to it. So, I wanted to make this the kind of the degenerate gambling podcast. It is the UFC. We got Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier 3 tonight. Along with, I want to discuss the NBA tomorrow. Obviously, the Phoenix Suns are up 2-0. Um, Giannis, who just suffered almost a loss of limb maybe 2 weeks ago. Today is July 10th. The game is on July 11th, which is on a Sunday. Maybe 2 weeks ago, we almost saw one of the worst injuries. Actually, it's one of the worst injuries I've ever seen in general without it being a compound fracture. But we may have, it's a horrific injury. And for this dude, and we're gonna discuss this more. We'll go UFC first, but for this dude to have 42 and more points, I believe, in the third quarter than his two other teammates who are supposed to be the number 2 and 3 had in the entire game. So we're gonna discuss that, but I wanted to just get to talk about some of my UFC picks, right? So we got a long card, as always, right? I watch from top to bottom. Um, I always watch prelims, prelims, the regular prelims, the main card. You watch all of them, right? You watch the prelims. It's usually like the first fight. The first 1 to 3 fights is usually, maybe your up and comers, maybe just some brand new people, some prospects they just found, and they kind of work their way up. So a lot of these people, if you follow the UFC for a year, and at least for that year, we can, if you can shrink up enough wins, you can follow the trajectory of people's career. And also, one of the more efficient ways I use to bet on UFC is strength of schedule, right? Strength of schedule. In NFL, the Patriots, it seems like every single year they had the easiest schedule in the NFL. But then they end up winning the Super Bowl anyway. So it kind of didn't even matter, right? Strength of schedule is always what I look for when it comes to UFC, besides, record, obviously, but in UFC more than boxing, the fans don't, well, not the casual fans, 'cause casual fans will shift anywhere. Fans respect more fight than record, right? So obviously, if you got a trash record, you know, you don't get as much leeway. But somebody like Nate Diaz, who is damn near 50-50, Jorge Masvidal is like not the 50-50, but if you see his record in boxing, he wouldn't be seen as the same guy. But the UFC fans know that these guys is about matchups, and a lot of these guys are, well, not all of these guys and girls are really tough, and the matchup can weigh a lot. Decisions can weigh a lot. Bad reffing can weigh a lot. Bad judges can weigh a lot. You can say for a lot of Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal's fights that there are a handful of fights, more than a handful of fights that were just could have been bad decisions. So that's why I always look at strength of schedule, because if you fought really good people, but you lost, it was a 5 round decision, you barely won. To go 5 rounds with certain people is really a thing, right? To go a full fight with a lot of people is really a thing. It's really something I put a lot of points on when it comes to me judging fights and just looking at. So the first I'll start off with, because it's the first one. So Trevin Giles, it's not the first one, but it's the first one I'll use as that example. Trevin Giles versus Dricus Duplessis. Uh, Go to Trevin Giles' info. So I usually go to SureDog. SureDog gives you kind of everything you need. It's like a SureDog. It's the easiest stats to go because the stats kind of look like arcade stats, like NBA Jam stats, where they're just super easy to read. He has 6 TKOs, 5 submissions, 3 decisions, and they light up the right way, right? So I go to SureDog. I look at Trevor Giles, and I go in and I break injury scene. I do not care about winning streaks, losing streaks, because it all depends on the competition, though. Like, can I find this dude? Juices? Okay, it's also a shirt dog, right? So one is 14 and 2, and the other one's 15 and 2. Both coming off of 3 win. Both are on 3 win winning streaks. The last 3 wins for Dracis, I hope I'm saying his name right. Marcus Perez, Brandon Lazar, and Joton Ludebach. Maybe good fighters, right? The first one, the last one, Marcus Perez was in the UFC. Trevin Giles has already been in the UFC for quite a while, like for 3-4 years. And 3 victors also, but the 2 of the 3, Bevan Lewis, and James Krause. He beat James Krause in a split decision. It was a real tough fight. It was a real close fight. Could have gone either way. But the fact that he can go 5 rounds with James Krause and get the victory. The fact that in the past he's fought and beaten Ryan Spann. He's fought and beaten Brendan Allen. These are all fights from years ago. But this shit counts. He did lose to Jeremy Mershaw by submission. That was 4 years ago. 2 years ago, but he hasn't lost since. So to me, Trevin Giles has just fought better competition. When it gets to it, maybe Juicy it just kind of because he just got into the UFC. Maybe it just took a while for him to get his chance. So I just go with who I've seen the most and who I've seen the most that's been impressive, and especially because I remember him stopping Bevon Lewis. Bevon Lewis is not it's kind of just random cat, right? So that's how I look at UFC fights, and it's the best way to tell. Like when you got a super even fight, like Stephen Thompson and Gilbert Burns, I'm gonna just stay away from that fight. My gut is telling me Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is going to win it because I kind of use that same measurement. Gilbert Burns has fought tough competition, but the competition he's faced at 170 is not as good as the competition Stephen Wonderboy has faced. And Wonderboy just has been at 170 for a longer time. His style is very, very different. And that doesn't mean Gilbert Burns can't get in there because Gilbert Burns is really fast. He's going to be going for takedowns. He's going to be going for knockouts. He can really, really switch it up. And I think what Stephen Thompson is going to see that he didn't see, let's say, when he fought Woodley. Woodley has fast hands, and so does Burns. But Burns has fast, quick, and he throws a lot of hooks. So it's a lot of stuff. That's how Wonder Boy got knocked out against Masvidal. No, not Masvidal. Well, he got knocked out against a Superman punch against God damn, he's not in the UFC no more. His brother's name Sergio Pettis, Anthony Pettis. Wonder Boy can get caught with the punches. He's not obviously anybody can get caught with the punches they can't see. But since Wonder Boy fights so awkwardly, it seems like when he get hit, he really gets hit. Now it's not like he's been stopped a bunch of times. He's only been knocked out one time. But it just seems like he's getting older. And Gilbert Burns, like I said, has really quick hands. So a chance of knockout, a chance of I don't know about getting takedowns and holding him down and all this stuff. That's a real tough ass. But the chance of knockout, the chance of TKO is there with Gilbert Burns. He's really fast hands. And he's just really technical sound. For him to get that knockdown on a champ so quick, on Usman, I really thought that was really impressive. And yeah, I also never bet or go for the guy who just came off a loss on a title fight. Most cats when they lose off of a title fight, the next fight is also a loss. The only example I've seen is maybe like Daniel Cormier. After losing to Jones, whoever it was next, he beat him. Um, but pretty much everybody else, after they lose the title fight, they usually go on a pretty bad streak. Most recently, in like the 205 division, you can see with Anthony Smith and Dominic Reyes as well. Um, I think Tyron Woodley lost the belt. He didn't fight for the belt. He lost his belt. Then he kind of went on a lose streak. But that's typically the kind of role. But that's what I look for. Um, and I'll show you my underdogs first. So the underdogs, Omari Akhmedev, I don't know his last name. Sweet Jesus, against Brad Tavares. Uh, Amari is a plus 140 underdog. I went with him in DraftKings and in my DraftKings lineup and on here because plus 140, I like the even odds. I mean, I like the extra money. And let's see, let me type in his name. It already came up because I was looking at it earlier. This dude, the reason why I went for him, first of all, Dagestan, Russia. He's a workhorse. So I went for him in DraftKings because DraftKings, I'm just learning that side of it, scoring, etc. A lot of takedowns. He has a lot of submission victories, but he also has a lot of decisions. So the reason I went for him in DraftKings is because most of his fights is decisions. The same with Brad Tavares. Um, it's just a whole lot of decisions. So if you get a whole lot of decisions, a whole lot of takedowns, a whole lot of technical stuff, punches, a long drawn out fight, that's how you get a lot of points. Takedowns cost for a lot, especially in DraftKings. And I just kind of think Amari is going to just outwork him. He's fought tougher competition. Uh, Ian Heinisch being one, Tim Bosch. He just beat Tom Breeze. He just submitted him. He did lose to Chris Weidman, but it was a real controversial decision. I wouldn't say controversial. It was a close decision. Could have went to any one of those guys. So, and he had a draw with Marvin Vettori. This is years ago. Marvin Vettori is elevated, but to have a draw with Marvin Vettori and beat Ian Heinisch and Tom Breeze. Again, that's just the experience. There's a couple ones I'm gonna stay away from, like Jennifer Maia versus Jessica I. Jessica I is the underdog at plus 160. Jennifer Maia at minus 200. I'm gonna go. Well, not go. I'm gonna say Jennifer Maia is gonna win. I'll stay away from it betting wise. I think it'll be either a decision or a submission. I can't. I don't know if I can check to see. Method of victory. So Jennifer Maia by submission is plus 500. But it going to a decision is plus her winning by decision is plus 105. So um, I would say the plus 105 winning by decision is probably a lot better than minus 200 for her winning the fight. Because I think it'll probably go to a decision either way. But I'll go for Jennifer Maia just because again she just fought the champ and she just coming off a loss. So things, I'm going against what I just said. Um, But she's just way too. I think she's way too physical for Jessica I. But we'll see how it goes. It's still a close fight. I can see Jessica I winning, but I'll just lean more Jennifer Maia on this one. So Trevor Giles and Duplessis, Drusis. I went Trevor Giles with that one. Ilya Tapiria against Ryan Hall. The odds are kind of switched. I called early at plus 205. Ryan Hall is an underdog at plus 205. Well, he's an underdog right now at plus 185. And what you really want to be looking for is Ryan Hall by submission, which is plus 350, which means if you put $20 on it, you'll win $70. Right? So Ryan Hall is a submission specialist, but what is really underrated with Ryan Hall, I think most people have not noticed, is his striking is a lot better. Mainly his kicking. A lot of wheel kicks, a lot of roundhouse kicks. If you watch his last couple fights, he's really switching it up, and he does has TKO losses. A lot of these guys that are not losses, wins. I'm sorry. a lot of these guys that are just submission specialists, and he is a submission specialist. They come into the UFC, they really don't rely on their hands as much. His striking has improved. It's been a while since he's been in the fight. Um, that's the most telling part. I think he hasn't fought since like 2019. So when it comes to fighting, I think I think a lot of people don't want to fight Ryan Hall. Um, because of the fact that his submissions can be pretty bad. They're usually lower limb submissions, but he went against Darren Elkins in a decision, and he did just fine standing up. So um, I think Ryan Hall at plus 185 is a really good bet. I know Ilya is undefeated, so going against the undefeated person is crazy. Ryan Hall is just 8-1, and Ilya he has a straightforward type of style. Uh, this is going to be his third fight in the UFC, and he hasn't fought since December of 2020. So a little bit of a layoff to 8 month layoff. So maybe had injuries or something like that. But he just won by KO. He had a fight before that by decision, and again by KO. So he's a straightforward type of guy. He's good with submissions. He has a bunch of submission victories, right? So this may be a really good grappling fight. This may turn into a grappling fight, but I think Ilya's going to probably keep it standing up. Because Ryan Hall's probably at a little bit higher level. But at the same time, before his UFC fights, Ilya wins is all submissions. So it's mostly rear naked chokes and guillotines, but he has the triangles and a counter choke. So it looked like he's no fool on the ground either. So we'll see how that goes. But I have Ryan Hall. Because if this is going to turn into a on the floor fight, he's going to have to just knock him out stiff, which he can do, which Ilya can do. But we'll see how that goes. But I have Ryan Hall. Pure violence in this next fight. This is probably going to be the most exciting fight of the night, besides Tai Tuivasa and Greg Hardy. We'll get to that. But Michael Pieta against Nico Price. I'm going Michael Pieta. And probably by, let's see. So by KO, TKO, a DQ is plus 200 for Michael Pieta. I'll go for Michael Pieta because he's just a freak in nature. He's a bigger, stronger guy. And again, I just said I'm contradicting myself, but I'm explaining why. Nico Price by far has the experience factor, right? He's fought much tougher opponents. He has a much better gas tank, and etc. Right? Everything I said at the beginning, going against it on this one because Michael Pieta is just a much, much bigger guy. And Nico Price's last fight, let me go to it. Pull it on up. Make sure I'm accurate. It should have been against Cowboy. And he had a no contest where he had a draw overturned. Well, he had a draw with Cowboy Cerrone, and before that, he lost to Vicente Luque. And then before that, he beat James Vick, and before that, he lost to James Neal. Before that, he beat Tim Means, but before that, he lost to Abdul Razak. So Nico Price can be kind of up and down. He's a really, really exciting fighter. But I think the power of Pieta it's pretty crazy, especially at 185. This dude can easily fight at 205, and he comes all the way down at 105. His gas tank had been a lot better. He hit weight. I wouldn't say seemingly with no problem, but he did hit weight. Um, and, and Cowboy is a great fighter, but to get a draw with Cowboy at this point, when Nico fighter should have been the younger, the bigger guy. To me, it tells me a little bit. It just tells me to lean with Pieta. The line says that too. It's minus 175. So I won't bet on this because, like I said, it's pure violence, and Nico Price is pure violence. Pieta is pure violence. So I never like to bet on those fights. But it'll probably be the fight of the night. The next is Matt Griffin. It's called Condit. It's one of besides obviously the next one after that. It's one of the biggest odds. Minus 185. for Max Griffin, Carlos Condit. I went for Max Griffin again on DraftKings along with this. Carlos Condit just at a different point. These guys are at two different points in their career. Max Griffin's been fighting a while, but he's still a younger guy. He's still the bigger guy. I think he wins this as Max Griffin. More than likely, it'll be by decision. But I also have him on my DraftKings because he does a lot of technical work, a lot of punches and kicks. No, no gigantic knockouts or anything like that. Even though he may have some TKOs on this record, as far as him TKOing cats. But it's usually a real grinding type style. It's the same style as Carlo Condit, but I think he's just much bigger than Carlos Condit. There is a chance he can get caught up in the submission. Carlos Condit is just not some random guy. That's why it's plus 150 on odds. It's not like it's minus 400 or something like that. It's still pretty close odds. But I'm gonna go with Max Griffin, and I went for it on DraftKings as well because, like I said, those takedowns and those points really add up. Sean O'Malley against Chris Muitino. I don't know how to say this cat name. He's brand new to the UFC. Just gigantic odds. I mean, Sean O'Malley at minus 1,000. So betting on the actual money line is something I wouldn't tell you to do. But Sean O'Malley to win in the first 3 minutes of the first round is plus 163. Chris Mutino doesn't have any experience in the UFC. It's his first fight. He's a pretty random guy, and to be fighting Sean O'Malley is a big spot, maybe too big of a spot. But anything can happen. Let's see, technical draw. What's Mutano winning in the first round plus 1,600. It'd have been a lot higher. It should be like plus. Anything can happen, but more than likely it's to be Sean O'Malley winning. Him winning within distance is minus 450. So if you want to bet that instead of minus 1,000, because this probably won't go to a decision, you can get some, much better money at minus 450 than fucking minus 1,000. It's crazy. And also Sean O'Malley by a TKO is minus 400. So TKO KO is minus 400. Him winning the first round is minus 120, and the second round is plus 270. With fights like these, I'm always kind of it always is not what it seems. So I think Sean O'Malley in round two at plus 270 might be a good fucking decision. I don't know. But it's better than minus 1,000. So yeah, definitely didn't bet on this at all. We're getting down to it. Irene Aldana and Yana Kutskaya. Minus 105 and minus 115. Aldana is the favorite here. When I caught it, no, Aldana is still underdog by a little bit. Just minus 105. It's the same thing. It's even money, basically. Irene Aldana because she is crazy. She throws big knockout punches. She did miss weight, so maybe a big gas tank issue or whatnot. But her missing weight means she's just really just going to be the much bigger woman in this, so she probably was going to be already. And she just has good knockout power. She had a lot of decisions in the past, but she also has a few TKOs, and I don't know. But she's coming off a loss with Holly Holm, but Yuna Kutskaya is just not Kunitskaya. She's on a 2-win winning streak, and I don't know. I would went on Irene Aldana just because I know she's really impressive and explosive with the hands, and a lot of Yana's fights are decisions. So I just kind of went with Irene Aldana. It's probably a stay away, but I went with Irene anyway. This next fight, along with the Pieta and Nico Price fight, is probably going to be the most exciting fight. Tai Tuivasa and Greg Hardy. From the odds, minus 130 and plus 110. And I'm on Bovada. I'm just looking up Bovada. You may get better odds, FanDuel or DraftKings, etc. But I have Greg Hardy winning at plus 110. He's had a little bit of a layoff, which probably means he's been working. And I know he's gonna give it a wall. Like the thing with Tattoo Avasa, let me bring up Greg Hardy's stuff here. And Prince of Wall is just Jesus Christ. So he lost to Marcin Tibura. He got TKO. That was Greg Hardy did. He beat Maurice Green. He beat Yorgan Castro. He beat Juan Adams. He lost to Volkov. He did break his hand in that fight, but it was pretty one-sided either way. Like Greg Hardy is a prospect. Still, like he's only been in UFC 2 years, and he's fought tough competition. Like he's fought Volkov, Marcin Tibura. Let's see. And tied to Avasa the same, but James McSweeney, Arlovsky, Verdun Tibura. Yeah, I forgot Tibura fought Verdun. I'm going to go with Greg Hardy plus 110. I just think he's far better competition, and I think he's a little bit more of a dog right now, and I think he's pretty crazy. And sometimes he's a little trippy sometimes. So I go with Greg Hardy. Stephen Thompson versus Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is plus 135. I am going to go with Stephen Thompson just because history tells us that you should probably go with Steve Wonderboy Thompson. His style just doesn't allow you to really get to him. The Pettis thing, the Superman punch was what it was. But obviously, him getting absolutely KO'd is more of an anomaly than than anything else. So I think Gilbert Burns is a tough fighter. I do think Gilbert Burns has a chance to win this. It's not some foregone, it's not fucking minus 800 here. But I do see Wonder Boy winning, either by TKO or in a decision. Gilbert Burns made his after title fight thing may apply. I'm not exactly sure. He looked pretty devastated after he lost, but he also sounded really confident after that. So you kind of don't know what you're gonna get, what kind of guy is gonna show up. Like I said, really the only guy that has consistently won really the fight after the next two fights is like Cormier. Everybody else, including people who Cormier beat, Volkov, etc., lost fights. So yeah, it's gonna be a close fight, but I'll go Wonder Boy Thompson on that. And last fight, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Um, Conor McGregor plus 105 to Dustin Poirier's 125. We've seen. All right, so we've seen the first fight, we've seen the second fight, right? Two opposite, two totally opposite results. In the first one, Dustin Poirier gets stopped. But up to that, it was a lot of, I would say, psychological warfare. Um, he looked like he was way too antsy to get in that fight and knock out Conor. And even he admitted, and pretty much everyone could see that, Conor just got him out of his game. He KO'd him, right? Conor was just better at the time also. Second fight, it seems very neutral as far as the mental warfare game. There was none played. Uh, Poirier looked like the much bigger guy in there. I think he probably weighed like 20 pounds more than Conor. Sorry, I had a sneeze. Didn't want to kaplooey anything. And I think that's going to be the same difference in this one. Poirier is going to be the much bigger guy. I have another sneeze teasing. My bad again. He's a much bigger guy. And I think that's going to play into the same thing. Look, Dustin Poirier, after the second fight, I believe he said during the fight, he probably was like 190 pounds. He could have been 200. I read something that said 186. That's why I'm just saying 190 because I read something else that said 200. So I'll just go 190. Conor McGregor won't be weighing in to fight anybody at 185 pounds. Like, I know not, and you know what I mean, not the actual weigh-in, but the actual fight. You know, these guys shrink themselves down to 155, and they usually get in the octagon much bigger than what they shrink themselves down into. Usually, I guess, Connor's fought at 170, but one of them he didn't even make 170 when he fought Nate. He didn't even make it. He was like 168. So he doesn't comfortably weigh 170 pounds within his in shape fighting workout lifestyle. I'm sure when he's not doing all of that, he may weigh over that. Um, but he's never gonna come in at 185 pounds and fighting, right? So the fact that Dustin has this 15 to 20 pound difference, and he's much bigger in the upper body than Connor. I think he imposes his will the same way. I'll go to minus 125 for Dustin. And also, rarely in these trilogies does the person who loses the second fight wins the third fight. Like, I don't remember any back and forth. Let me type up UFC trilogy fights. Like, Cormier and Stipe was 1-2-2, 1-2-3. DC Stipe. Um, uh, Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos was Junior Kane in a pretty bad Kane, if I remember. Let's see. So somehow we got a Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock. I guess it was just really close fights. I'm sorry, I forgot. It was 3-0 for that. Randy Couture and Vito Belfort was actually a back and forth. Okay, it was Couture, Belfort, and then Couture got it back. Frankie Edgar versus BJ Penn. It was 3-0, but it was all just close fights and then a decision. Um, Tim Silva versus Andre Orlovsky. Orlovsky won the first one, and then Silva won the last two. Forrest Griffin versus Tito Ortiz. Tito won the first one, and Griffin won the second two. We talked about Dos Santos and Kane. And we talked about that, and we also GSP and Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes and then GSP. Also Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture. Randy Couture, Liddell, and also Greg Maynard and Frankie Edgar. Whereas the second one was a draw, but I thought Frankie Edgar won that fight. But so most of these trilogies kind of in this way. We've had a couple instances where it wasn't. But I just think with Dustin being just a much bigger guy, he probably outweighs him naturally 15, 20 pounds. Um, and I'm not sure how Conor gets away from that. Uh, that weight difference, especially when we now see that the punching power is on par, and not Conor, Poirier has power in both hands. Whereas Connor's he has power in both hands, obviously, but he's more of a specialist. He looks more for the left hand than both. So we'll see how those go. That's how my picks are. I have them all. The ones I say I was going to bet on. I'm not going to bet on this. I'm not going to bet on Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson anyway. But I did make just one giant parlay. Just to it is what it is. Just in case I get all of them right. I've gotten all of them right like 2 times before, and I've gotten several of them right. Plenty other times before. So that's why I did, some fights, all singles, and I also did one as a big parlay. So as the big parlay, just a throw out there, put $5 on it. I did Omari, Jennifer Maya, Trevin Giles, Ryan Hall, Pieta, Max Griffin. I didn't do Sean O'Malley at all. I did Irene Aldana, Greg Hardy, Stephen Thompson, and Dustin Poirier. Um, so what I said was my picks is what I did parlay on. But it was just one big, kind of throwaway parlay. So it kind of is what it is. So those are my picks for UFC. Hopefully you do some research on and stuff. Like it's about, of course, being a fan of this stuff. That's why I think, you know, um, looking at this stuff and doing this stuff is just so easy for me because I already watch it. So and been watching it for years. So hopefully we get a lot of them right. Hopefully we get all of them right. When that big parlay I put like $5 on that thing, but it was like 11, 12 fights. So I think the payout could have been like 3 Gs. I don't know, but we're going to sizzle either way. Uh, and lastly, well, not lastly, I only want to talk about 2 things. We need to talk about the finals, right? So the Suns are up 2-0, right? Rough transition, right? I just did a U-turn on 2 wheels, and it don't matter. 2-0 is the deal, right? Let's go to the odds. Right now, Phoenix is an underdog at plus 155 against the Milwaukee Bucks with a player who, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, looked like he was going to lose a leg less than 2 weeks ago. That player was also the leading scorer by far on the entire fucking stat list. Not only for his team, for both teams, right? Basketball, as far as money, has already gone 10, 20, 30, 40 times beyond what football will ever go to. It's two different business practices. The NBA is a lot more open as far as expression, whether that be either the expressions from owners or general managers, or we hear a lot. We know a lot more about NBA GMs than we do NFL GMs. You could probably name me 10 NBA GMs. That's how in tune as far as news, and that's how open the NBA is to the public. And that's also how much they share their, I guess, revenue wealth with their players. The thing is, you have average players making so much money that there's no way to come back on it. And I don't want to make this it's not a pocket counting situation there. I don't want to discuss what people are making. I want to discuss how do you pay guys if you're at the biggest possible spot that you will probably ever be in. And most cats have already been in lesser spots and suffered so much to get to the high spot. And they finally get to the high spot, and we see nothing from them, right? At what point does that leak into how much players are paid? For instance, John Wall was basically told, not basically, he was told by the Rockets, go home, take a nap, make a sandwich. We're paying you $42 million a year, and you don't even have to pay the last 20 games, even though you ain't even paid to play the 20 games before that, or the 20 games before that, or the 20 games before that. And now, because I don't want to talk narrative, because ESPN, we already see how ESPN and all the sports news medias, we already see how they push narrative, right? They just make up shit. I saw Richard Jefferson saying, "Oh well, Giannis, he just doesn't make any. Well, like like LeBron, he doesn't make anybody better. He's playing with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. These guys are making $180 million. Is he their daddy? He not playing with LeBron playing with Rodney Hood, and um at that point, Clarkson was still very young. He's not the same Clarkson. Playing with Larry Nance, playing with those young guys versus playing with Drew Holiday. There's a level of responsibility that Drew and Chris Middleton have to step up and not watch the dude who just got his leg taken off, almost got his leg taken off. It probably came off, and they sewed that bitch back on in the back. Then they did the Wolverine surgery. There is no possible way that the NBA can continue, and I'm not talking about money, if the sports media is not put into some type of check, right? So I just did a UE. What does Giannis have to do to get people on this team motivated? What is Giannis supposed to do against the hottest team in the NBA, while the Bucks are the number one team defensively in the NBA? Phoenix is the number two team defensively in the NBA. So you have the two best teams of the year. That's why this is not a coincidence. The Lakers stuff, this is not a coincidence that the number one and two defensive teams are playing against each other in the NBA Finals right now. It's not some big fucking hoo-ha. What in the hell is Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday doing? And at what point? And they've been inconsistent the whole time. And that's the thing with the Middleton. And like I said in previous podcasts, we can get on these cats. Cats make $180 million. Cats make $30, $30 million. I say $30. They make $30 a second. Make 30 minutes, shoot the ball in the hoop. So me talking for a little podcast from a little desk, it means nothing. But the fact that you can get to this point, both of those cats, and you can't step up, or they haven't even been consistent through the entire playoffs. Like Middleton had a big game, Drew had a big game, but they've had like one big game. It's been 30 plus for Giannis the whole time. Let me go to I can go to his last 10, right? His last 10, Chris Middleton, right? So they had the Brooklyn game. This is in June. He had 38. That wasn't to close out Brooklyn. It was the game before that. Then he had 23. In the first two Atlanta games, he had 15. Then he had 38. In the game after that, he had 16. Then he has 26. And then in the last game, he has 11. Drew Holiday. The last Brooklyn game, where Middleton had 38, he had 21. Then he had 13. and he had 33. And then the game 3 and 4 against Atlanta, he has 6 and 19. And then the last two games, he has 10 and 17. So what's telling me from first of all, looking at this chart, is that every two games, he has two games, two good games, and two bad games. Two good games, two bad games. This is how his entire playoffs look for Drew Holiday. What the fuck is going on? Why does the dude with the wooden leg have to do so much, and why does he continuously get so much flack on the opposite side? Why is Richard Jefferson? How can Richard Jefferson, as a player who's been carried by other players, look at the effort that somebody with a wooden leg can put out 2 weeks removed against the second best defensive team in the NBA, with probably the deepest roster in NBA and the coach of the year? So I didn't want to get too much mumbo jumbo about that. Um, 2-0, it is what it is. Phoenix as an underdog is a little confusing to me. My dog Trill, he did tell me that Scott Foster is the referee for Chris Paul. And last I checked, Chris Paul, Scott Foster. Let's see. $11 in a row? 11 in a row. So Scott Foster being thrown into this as a referee, and all of a sudden the line being switched, and the team that is clearly the better team and the more dominant team and a better coach team, and then a referee slides in and it's game 3. And I assume, most people just don't think this is going to be a sweep, and they think it's going to be maybe a gentleman sweep. So that's probably why this line switches. um I just don't get it. This line tells me that we should be betting the over on Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton on tomorrow. Let me look at their props. Because for this line to switch, uh, because of a change of a referee, I don't really know. So Drew Holiday is over 19 points. Can Drew Holiday get 20 points? That's minus 114. And Chris Middleton, can he get 26 points at minus 114? So, huh. It's a little confusing for the line to switch, but for me, I would still bet the better team. I still think Phoenix is the better overall team, and they don't have the dude playing with the wooden leg as the best player, because there's other people on his team that are asleep. I guess I don't know how to piece it together, but cash their checks. Big salute. I wish I was as mediocre as my job and got paid a percentage, a piece of a percent. So this is definitely a hateration in this dancery. Uh, on top of that too, but let's see. Drew Holiday to get 30 points is plus 484. So if I put $20 on that, I can win $116. That might be my bet for tomorrow. I'm put how much? $50 there. $50. I put $50 on Drew Holiday scoring 30 points. Because looking at his scoring chart, I should probably go 25 points looking at his scoring chart. Actually, that might be a safer bet. So first of all, $50 will give me a return of $292. So plus 24 plus is plus 165. Betting $50 on that will give me $132. Betting $100 on that will double that thing. It give me $265. So putting $100 on Drew Holiday scoring at least 24 points. Because looking at the scoring charts, there's 2 good games, 2 bad games, 2 good games, 2 bad games. Can he have 3 bad games in a row and really sell Giannis out, we'll see. But thank y'all for listening. Um, I appreciate y'all. This will be up at, of course, on in podcast form, but it'll be up on my YouTube. So review my YouTube, review the podcast, subscribe to both. The YouTube's gonna be a lot of the same content as far as the talking. It's going to be a lot more topics on there because it'd be a lot of 5 and 10 minute things that I don't want to fit into a long format into like this, which is kind of why I prefer YouTube a little bit more. I can break up the conversations because we just talked about UFC and the NBA. I can break up the conversation a little better per video. Um, but I still like the podcast form because just talking and running my yapper is something that's cool too. So I appreciate y'all for listening, and I will holler.